Elgin Police Department is dedicated to working in partnership with the community to promote safety and enhance the quality of life by serving with professionalism, encouraging open communication, and embracing diversity.
Engaged.
Partnering with our citizens and involved in our community.
Progressive.
Embracing innovative strategies while maintaining proven practices.
Dedicated.
Serving with integrity and professionalism. Elgin became an incorporated city in 1854 and installed its first police marshal, George W. Renwick. Over the years, the title of the head law enforcement officer changed from marshal to chief. And although the role has expanded, one duty has remained consistent: to ensure law and order for the citizens of Elgin.
It's time now for Fridays with the Finest, featuring Elgin's current police chief, Anna Lalley, on Elgin's hometown radio station since 1949, WRMN AM 1410 and 96.7 FM.
All right, it is time for Fridays with the Finest here on this Friday morning as we continue through our Friday morning festivities here at WRMN. And we welcome in the chief from the Elgin Police Department, Anna Lalley. Badge 240 is here solo on Friday morning with a lot of recapping to do. You've had some guests in recent weeks, so you got some notes with you, and we're just going to catch up on some things, right? So it's Anna Lalley, the Elgin Police Chief. Welcome.
Thank you. I figure it's been, I like to bring guests on, and I think it just, again, to introduce people to other people in the police department that do really amazing work every day, and then, timely information too. So I think we had the Bear family McDonald's on because we had the game, which we did lose.
Really? I never heard the final.
Yeah, so I think it was, I know we lost because I asked Sergeant Demir. I said, did we win? He said, no, but we raised $15,000. I said, well, that's good.
Yeah, that's a win right there.
That was the win. And so I just saw we posted on our Facebook. We shared the Bear family's post, and so I saw some of the pictures. And,
I saw that.
Yeah, so, again, thank you again to their partnership and for their partnership. And then raising money for, a charitable cause, which I think in the end, whether we win or we lose, if we are helping people, that's everyone's winning.
Yeah.
Yep. So thank you to them. Thank you to all the Elgin officers who played too. And then I want to talk a little bit just about, kind of some of the things that are upcoming events, talk some shots fired, and then talk a little bit about really dedicate some time to the Civilian Review Board. So I think you and I had a really brief conversation once the ordinance or the selection committee, the people who were selected were picked, and that was the conversation at the council meeting. So I really want to make sure that everybody knows the process, what they do, what the qualifications are. So we'll take some time and do that. So let me start out by talking about, Officer Camacho, we had an officer-involved shooting on January 13th of this year.
Yeah.
Officer Camacho, I've reinstated him back to full duty. So Monday was his first day back at work. So he's transitioning, he's got some catch up to do and some things like that before he returns back to his patrol shift. So probably within the next week here, he'll be back to his patrol shift. That again, I want to just really quickly thank the community for their patience, thank the investigative agencies for their thorough and professional review of that incident. That incident was very difficult, very rapidly evolving, and, I want to commend Officer Camacho on his actions, his professionalism, and his training that he displayed. That's the Elgin Police Department, we take very, pride in what we do and how we do it. And, it's not an easy situation. So, January 13th, the incident happens, almost 3 weeks later, we released the body-worn camera footage, right? So in that 3 weeks, a lot of times too, it's hard for me to, talk in detail about what happens because there has to be a criminal investigation and then subsequently an administrative investigation. So February 9th, we released the body-worn camera. July 18th is when the Cook County State's Attorney's Office, through the Illinois State Police Public Integrity Task Force, advises me that there are no criminal charges. Once that happens, and I get that information, it goes straight to our independent investigator. We don't waste any time because obviously we want to resolve this matter, and we don't want it to go on for years and more months than it needs to.
Yeah.
So on Friday of last week, myself and Deputy Chief Schuessler met with Officer Camacho, and and just told him the news, and he came back to work on Monday.
So he's going to go back on patrol again?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why does it take so long? I mean, is there just a lot on their plate?
Yeah.
I mean, because it was January, now it's August. That's 7 months.
Yes.
And even if he felt, Officer Camacho, the entire time that he knew what he did was the right thing in the right moment, and in the long run things would turn out okay for him, he still had 7 months of changing, his life being changed or his job being changed because of what happened, just him in doing his duty back in January.
Yeah, it's stressful. I think that's a great question. The reason, again, it takes, and honestly, from January to September, and for it to be done, he's back to work, is in some things that I have seen in the past, this is relatively quick. So, there are some cases that, have taken years for some type of resolve. I think it's a couple things. It's the magnitude and scope of the incident can influence or impact the investigation. Just like us, when we have investigations that might take 2 or 3 weeks or maybe a month or a couple months before we make an arrest. And the reason is that you have to do things appropriately, and you have to make sure things are done the right way. Because eventually, that investigation is going to allow a state's attorney to make a decision of whether or not they're going to bring charges forward. So you want to make sure it's done correctly. Once that comes back, once I get that report, the criminal part is over. Then I send it to our outside investigator, which, this is a high-profile case. Obviously, the officer, to your extent, too, it's stressful. It's months of a difference, a worry, a change. And so we do the best we can to try to, keep the investigation moving forward so that there's a timeliness to it. So, to get the investigation back relatively within a month from our outside investigators is very timely, right? So. And then it's a matter of making sure the facts are straight, the investigation is thorough, all the T's are crossed and the I's are dotted, that there's nothing out there, because once you make that decision, it's very difficult to go back and say, oh, well, wait a minute, we forgot to look at this. People are going to say, right here, there's something funny going on or what's happening. So, I prefer as much as, I just, the timeliness and needs to be hand in hand with the thoroughness and the professionalism of the investigation, because then it gives me the information that I need to then make those decisions. And that once it's done and Officer Camacho goes back to his patrol shift, right, his life can go back to, his life is different. It's changed. It's forever changed, right? But it's on to his next phase and him wanting to move forward in his life.
Yeah, his life has changed, but at least it was a non-fatal. Mm-hmm. So he knows, he didn't take anybody's life in the line of duty, whether it was justified or would have been justified or not.
Sure.
So that helps a little bit. But when does it get turned over to the state when it actually is a fatal shooting? Like
whenever an officer's involved in the shooting, regardless if it's fatal or not.
Oh, so this was also turned over to the state at some point? Okay.
Yeah. So right away. So when the incident happened, we by law cannot investigate our own officer-involved shooting, because you can see obviously the issues that could arise from that. We immediately called the Illinois State Police. They come out, they have a public integrity task force. This is what they do. So yeah, I just wanted to mention that. I know you had talked about it a couple days on the radio. It's been in the news. So that was something that happened over this past week here.
Yeah. One thing,
sure.
The Soto family, Hector checks in. He says, was the officer put on desk work or paid leave? It was paid leave, right?
Yes, he was on paid administrative leave. And so that question comes up a lot too, right? So why are the officers put on paid administrative leave and not just administrative leave? And the officers have the right to due process. And so in that, you can't deprive someone of something before any final determination. So they have rights afforded to them through the Officers' Bill of Rights. They have rights afforded to them through the Constitution. And so he's on paid administrative leave while it takes place, right? Because you're not depriving a person of something prior to any type of disciplinary, finalization.
Sure.
So,
okay.
But I know that question does come up too, and it's just a matter of explaining to people, why, which is kind of today what I'm going to talk about a little bit with the Civilian Review Board. So that's it with that. I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about our shots fired information. So year to date, so we are at 46 incidents year to date. The last two occurred on the 25th, which was just a few days ago. We had one in the 500 block of Glenwood that happened about 1:52 in the morning, and then the second one happened at 6:53 at night. So we had two in one day. Prior to that, I think our shots fired, the last one was on August, I want to say 11th or 12th. Don't quote me. I think that's when it was. So two in one day. We are at 46 incidents year to date. Again, I want to stress, all these incidents are on our transparency hub. You can find out what cases have arrests made, what cases are still ongoing. The detectives work very hard to bring resolve to these cases. Some cases we will not be able to solve. Some cases there are no further investigative leads. We've exhausted all of our investigative methods. Last year at this time, we were at 36, so we are 10 higher than we were at this year. So again, talking about it, letting people know what we're doing in terms of, what is our strategy. We have officers who, when we have information specific to whether it's gang related, we're doing directed patrols. We're working with our federal partners, including the ATF. Officers are working very hard. The community gives us information. So I will continue to talk about where we are, each week here, just to make sure that everyone has the right information. And again, please go on our transparency site. We have three, learn how to use the transparency site coming up. So
Right.
it's the first one is September 4th at Senior Services, and then we have one on September 10th and one on the 18th. Come to them, please. That transparency site has a lot of good information in terms of, I want to know what is the police department doing? Are these cases? Are there arrests? What's the status of it? Anything that people want to know. So I will continue to keep the community posted on that.
If there's a spike, let's say, there's a little bit of a spike this year, 46 to 36 last year. Do you meet and review and say, why do we think there are more shots fired, and what else can we do to try to prevent the shots fired? I mean, what more can you do to prevent shots fired?
That's a good question. So yes, we do meet. So the command staff meets monthly. One member of our command staff, which is Commander Tom Michael, who you just met a couple weeks ago, he oversees our investigative division. So we have something called a violent crimes meeting. So we have officers from all different parts of the department where we talk about it. We have our crime analysts there. We're looking for links and, whether or not certain cases are involved with gangs, certain cases have a link to it, doing some link analysis. So yes, we do. That happens monthly. Every week, the command staff meets on Monday mornings, and we talk about our strategy, where we're at, what's the status of the cases. So it is a priority in the police department, to push those numbers down. I always say one is too many. We need to, the community should not tolerate any type of shots fired. Some of these are literally, and these are the ones that we probably will never bring a resolution to, where somebody is driving through an intersection, they shoot up in the air. Somebody calls, hey, I hear something. We go out there, we find a shell casing, right? So unless there's cameras in the area, unless you have a witness, or unless somebody comes in and says, I did that, or that casing could be tied forensically to some other cases. So we could make an arrest, right? But there are some cases where forensically, investigatively, we have exhausted every method, and we can't make an arrest. And then there are some cases where we make quick arrests, and we put those out on our social media. But yes, to your point, we meet, we talk, we discuss, we have partnerships with the ATF. I have a task force officer with the ATF. We're doing directed patrols. Every Tuesday, department email goes out with, where we're at with shots fired, so people understand that too as well. So the officers know, hey, this is where we're at, this is what we're doing. So yes, those discussions do happen.
Yeah, I mean, you had one at 6:53 in the evening, and you had another one at 1:30 in the morning, which is a pretty common time, I would think, for shots fired.
It was about 1:52.
1:52, yeah. So, but 1:52 in one spot, it's just so random.
Yes. Now,
It's
sometimes
so
there are random, but that's what our crime analyst, Ryan Drake, does, is try to find some patterns.
Yeah.
Interesting enough, when he did an assessment, I think it was a couple months ago when I asked him to do it, you can we were on a little bit of a pattern where you could predict every 2 weeks something was going to happen. Because you'll see there'll be weeks where nothing is going on, right? And then all of a sudden we are getting two in one day, or there's some in a So he's looking at those patterns to see if there's some type of nexus between that and actual, something that we can actually work, actionable things that we can do to say, okay, let's look at this pattern. What's our strategy based on that? So that happens routinely. And again, any of our shots fired data, we push out to the public and to the community because they have the right to know. Anything from somebody hears a shots fired and we show up and there's just a casing, to where there might be damage, to where we don't even recover a casing, but on a camera, you can tell that someone's discharging a weapon. So those are all included. So,
yeah.
Okay. Another thing real quick. We do have a couple of events coming up. Check our Facebook out too. We have the big one is our Halloween event that's coming up on October 22nd from 4:30 to 7:30. We get thousands of people there. Really great event that's just been exploding over the past couple of years. So look for more information on that. Okay, now I want to really kind of talk and dive into the Civilian Review Board. So I have about 15 minutes here, so I think that should be plenty. If anyone has any questions, after watching this, right now it's probably not, I don't want to take calls right now just because I want to get this information out. But if, next week, if you want to call me, or if you want to call me during the week or email me, please do. So the Civilian Review Board, just a little brief history, created through the Task Force on Policing. That was, almost a 2-year process. Task Force makes recommendations. One of the recommendations was to have a Civilian Review Board. So the first step in that process was for the city council, to create and then to approve an ordinance that would allow for the city to have a review board, citizen review board. So that was done a few months ago.
Okay.
So the first step in the ordinance is available online. So if anybody, you just Google City of Elgin, city ordinances, it'll come up. It's on the main page. So you got to scroll down a little bit, but it's ordinance, it's G17-24. So if you want that number, so you can read this all online for yourself. So the first part is to create a selection committee. So 5 people, myself, a member of the police union, and 3 people who were members of the police task force. That selection committee will then make determinations and recommendations to the city council for people to actually sit on the Civilian Review Board. So we are in step 1 right now.
Okay.
So I heard you read the city put out a press release about the Civilian Review Board.
Yeah.
So applications are due on September 9th of this year. Mm-hmm. You can go online to apply. So there are some qualifications for office for people, which is included in the city ordinance. And I'll cover that here in a minute.
Okay.
So the selection committee the selection committee has 60 days from the close of application. So on September 9th, we have 60 days, the selection committee, which is myself, member of the police union, and then the city council approved 2 weeks ago, Ishmael Cordova, Walter Blaylark, and Carol Bailey. So those 3 were on the task force. So that's the selection committee. So we have 60 days from when the applications close to basically get together, do interviews, and make our recommendations for appointment to the city council. So,
okay. What does it have to turn out like if there's one person that's being considered and 5 of you are trying to determine whether that person is it have to be like unanimous or like a 3-2 vote? Or
it's probably, when it comes down to it, it's probably going to be, we have to say as a group, we are, how we get to the recommendation. These meetings are going to be public. So our meetings, even with the selection committee, will be open, and it should be. I have no problem with it. People should, when you create, one of the things that, when I was having some conversations about this, if you're creating a task force for police officers, you can't exclude the police officer from the very process that you're trying to implement to make transparency and accountability and fairness. So I really push to have a police officer on the selection committee. It's very rare that you'll find something like that, right? Because their voice matters. Their voice, my voice as the police chief, their voice, and then the community members. When we work together, right? When it's like people coming together, whether or not we agree, whether or not we disagree, but that's where the magic happens, right? Far too often it's very divisive. And, I have seen results come from very, very, very strong conversations with people, very uncomfortable. And I have seen when people put their walls down and truly listen and work together, you can have a middle ground where people are okay with, right? And they understand why. So we have to make that recommendation. These meetings will be public, so people can hear the conversation. They can hear what we're discussing.
So you're going to have like interviews with each of the applicants,
Yes.
where that person would come in and meet with all 5 of you at the same time?
Yes. So we're going to have to create interview questions, and then we're going to have those interviews. And then once those interviews are done, then we can make our recommendation to the city council. Now, by ordinance, let me talk a little bit about the Civilian Review Board. So we make our recommendations. The council, they have final approval. They have to say yes or no. So we just say, here you go. This is who we're saying should be on the Civilian Review Board. So the board is 9 members. So 9 members, 5-4 quorum.
Yeah.
9 members for this first year, when it's first created. 3 people will have a term of 4 years. 3 people will have a term of 3 years. 3 people have a term of 2 years. So it's staggered, right? Because you want some stability when you start getting new people.
Yeah.
Thereafter, if somebody is on the Civilian Review Board, their term is 3 years. Okay. The ordinance also wants to have a representation from the entire city of Elgin. So it strives in the ordinance to have 4 people. So out of that 9, 4 people from the east side of the river, 4 people from the west side of the river.
Right.
Right. Whether or not that can happen, we'll see.
Yeah.
Right. We'll see who puts in. We'll have to see what's going on here. I don't know how many applications we have thus far. I'll probably know by next week. I'll kind of see where we're at, let people know. So once the board is appointed, so prior to people taking office, right? So before people sit on this board, they have to meet the qualifications and complete training, and also a background check. Okay. So.
Yeah.
Let me talk first about the training. So the police department is going to conduct 2 days of training, 16 hours of training, and it's going to be everything from, the police officer contracts. They are going to know about search and seizure, how we do our response to resistance in terms of capturing it and what that looks like and what that means. Be introduced to our equipment. Be put through our firearm simulator to go through some scenarios to understand what we do with our ESD ICAT. So that's communications, assessment, and tactics, fair and impartial policing. I'm going to talk in depth about our policies and procedures, about how internal investigations are run. So when those 2 dates are set, because I need to bring people in to train, I need to be available, my deputy chief needs to be available. The dates are the dates. So these are the dates. We need you to show up.
Yeah.
Because I can't be recreating another 16 hours. It's a lot of work to do that. So
this is after the 9 are chosen?
yes. So
those
they're
9
selected.
will
Yes.
then have to be there at those 2 dates.
Yes, they have to be there. And so, and part of that too is, you have to give people, even just your question, why does it take so long for an officer involved shooting? So to be able to explain, here's the process. This is how it works. Because a lot of times people get their information from news snippets, right? Well, the officer, this, that. Well, then why did it take so long? This has been going on for 9 months. Well, let me explain it to you. So I want to be able to explain to the board, here's how an internal investigation works. There's so many things involved with it, right? And so the public only just sees the end game. So they need to know the ins and outs. So that 16 hours of training is required. Additionally, the qualifications for office, and this comes straight from our ordinance, which again, you can find this online yourself. So qualifications for office. So all members of the board at the time of their appointment and during their service shall be qualified electors of the city. No person shall serve more than 2 terms as a member of the board. No person presently serving as an elected officer or employee of the city shall serve on the board. No person presently employed as a police officer shall serve on the board. No attorney actively engaged in the practice of criminal law or in the prosecution or defense of litigation brought pursuant to some federal cases and involving governmental entities shall serve on the board. No person convicted of a forcible felony shall serve on the board. No person convicted of a crime of dishonesty within the last 10 years shall serve on the board. No person who has failed to complete the training required by the police department shall serve on the board. And no person who is ineligible by federal or state law or rule to have access to law enforcement data required for the use of the board shall serve on the board. So there's some qualifications that need to be met. Additionally, that training, which provides an overview of the department as it relates to the use of force, internals, compliance, the weapons we carry. Additionally, they have to do a ride along with a police officer to understand not only the geography of the city, but also to acquaint them with what the day-to-day, what police officers do. So there's a lot that's involved to be on the board. And then most importantly, too, once this board is created, so you have to imagine, we have to do the training, everyone has to go through a background, the board is now set. At that point, the process by which, and we're going to eventually, once the board is set, and we're working, we're going to probably do something on our transparency site here to put out a visual chart to the community that basically shows the process, right? So a complaint comes in, when does it actually go in front of the board? And the ultimate, in the end, through all this process, which is there's layers to it, multiple layers. In the end, the final decision of discipline is made by the police chief.
Yeah.
Right. So my decision, when I make decisions on discipline, I have to make my recommendation, and it has to be approved by two places: the city attorneys, to ensure that my decision is fair, to ensure that it's compliant with the law, and ultimately my boss, city manager Rick Kozel, has to approve. He can say, "No, Anna, we're not doing that." The law department could say, "No, Anna, we're not doing that," or they could say, "This is." So ultimately, my decision, my recommendation, made by, reviewed by those two entities. So the Civilian Review Board, their goal is to just give me their recommendation, and it's something for me to consider while I'm making my final recommendation.
Yeah.
So, and again, the process by which the conversations, and again, if you paid attention to months of conversation from the task force, and you kind of go through, were a lot of emotions, there's a lot of stuff going on at the time, but that conversation about the Civilian Review Board, it always centered around, no matter where people were, it always centered around the community to have input and understanding and say in what happens in their police department. Now, ultimately, you don't want citizens, and I've said this, if I tell you, Mark, I'm going to give you this disciplinary file and I need you to make a disciplinary decision.
Yeah.
You're going to say, okay, so when I make this decision, what happens to me if there's an issue? Well, there could be a lawsuit, there could be an arbitration hearing, there could be all this stuff that you need to. And then you're going to say, well, what's my protection just as a citizen? Do I need to get an attorney? What do I have to do here? Most people are not comfortable with that, right? Now, if I say, Mark, read this, give me your thoughts, right? Tell me what you think, just in general, right? You're a community member, you're involved in the community, you know what's going on.
Yeah.
Give me your opinion, right? Most people are comfortable with that, right? Because, me as the police chief, the decisions that I'm making, it's based on my training, knowledge, experience, my, speaking with the city manager. I understand how the disciplinary process works. There's a lot. I've made disciplinary, I just can't tell a community member here to tell me what you think, right? Do they understand what use of force is? Do they understand our policies and procedures? Do they understand our philosophy? So it always centered around just being able to have a community have a say in something, right? Yeah. So I know we're running out of time, so I will kind of, as this moves along, again, if anyone's interested, applications due September 9th, go on the city's website, read the ordinance, see all the information that's in there, and eventually we'll be releasing something on our transparency site in terms of the process. When we get to the Civilian Review Board and it's actually in place, I will keep the community updated on all the progress.
All right. Well, that's a good start to educating people as to what the Civilian Review Board is all about. And again, you have until September the 9th if you want to be a part of this rigorous process to become one of the Special 9.
Rigorous. That's the word. Exactly.
2 8-hour training sessions.
Yes, absolutely.
Gotta be there.
You do. All right. So I hope everyone has a great weekend and be safe.
All right. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Chief Anna Lalley, Badge 240, Elgin Police Department. and Fridays with the Finest here today. Thanks for listening. Stick around. Coming up next, Steve Thorne's got the Senior Community Spotlight Show as our Friday first shift continues right here on the Talk of the Town, Elgin's radio station for 75 years, WRMN.
This is Larry Jones, and I'd like to talk to you about my bank, American Eagle Bank in South Elgin. Has your bank changed names in the last 10 years? Is your bank another faceless branch with headquarters in another city? Are you tired of earning next to nothing on your savings account or certificates of deposit, or does your personal banker treat you like a stranger? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're ready for a new banking experience, and American Eagle is the place for you. American Eagle is a locally owned independent bank that's rooted in the community, and American Eagle customers are greeted by name and treated with the respect that they deserve. American Eagle has an innovative program, Eagle Savings, that teaches your children to save while earning prizes and rewards. American Eagle offers great rates on certificates of deposit. My bank is located in South Elgin on Randall Road between the Target and Caputo's and is open Monday through Saturday. Give them a call at 847-742-7400, and a real person will answer the phone. American Eagle Bank, a place where you matter. This is Larry Jones, and I'd like to talk to you about my bank, American Eagle Bank in South Elgin. Has your bank changed names in the last 10 years? Is your bank another faceless branch with headquarters in another city? Are you tired of earning next to nothing on your savings account or certificates of deposit, or does your personal banker treat you like a stranger? If you answered yes to any of those questions, then you're ready for a new banking experience, and American Eagle is the place for you. American Eagle is a locally owned independent bank that's rooted in the community, and American Eagle customers are greeted by name and treated with the respect that they deserve. American Eagle has an innovative program, Eagle Savings, that teaches your children to save while earning prizes and rewards. American Eagle offers great rates on certificates of deposit. My bank is located in South Elgin on Randall Road between the Target and Caputo's and is open Monday through Saturday. Give them a call at 847-742-7400, and a real person will answer the phone. American Eagle Bank, a place where you matter.
It's the time of the year where storms and inclement weather can pop up unexpectedly. If you have a generator powered by a small engine, keep it running like a top. Don't do the tune-up yourself. Let Ames Small Engine Repair at 674 Laurel Street in Elgin handle your generator. Ames can do oil changes, spark plugs, and make all the necessary adjustments. From simple tune-ups to major repairs, Ames Small Engine can do it all. Don't forget, it's not too early to think about a lawnmower tune-up. Call 847-742-8750.
Oh no, I just hit that post and my car's got a dent.
Uh-oh, better get Mako.
Oh yeah? Where are they?
Mako is America's body shop. They're the world's largest provider of paint and collision services. They're located at 212 Western Avenue in Carpentersville, across from Spring Hill Mall. I've used them. Check out my car.
Wow, looking good.
Everything was so easy and affordable. Hummer and staff were super friendly and really knew their stuff.
I'm gonna call them now.
Mention WRMN 1410 at the Carpentersville Mako and receive 10% off today.
Hey, Friday continues here at WRMN AM 1410, WRMN Radio on YouTube on a Friday morning as we bring you Steve Thorne and the Senior Community Spotlight Show. Welcome to Labor Day weekend, Stevie T.
Hey, hi everybody, and happy Friday. Well, I guess I don't need those headphones, Mark. They're not on. So we'll just talk normal like you do anyway.
Yeah.
So we're not taking calls. That's really when it comes up. I hope you're doing well, and we did have a interesting council meeting this past week, and so that everyone knows, the city worked and interviewed and talked with waste management officials and Lakeshore Recycling Services. I think for about a year this has been going on. The waste management contract ends in January 1st. So it was the city Public Works Director, Aaron Neal, and Jennifer Phillips. The two heads made the recommendation that we go with LRS. They gave their presentation and showed us everything, all the differences, what was offered, and LRS is doing the recycling in Chicago. They have done Schaumburg, and they have done Des Plaines. They have Des Plaines, they have Schaumburg, they have, I think, Wilmette, either Wilmette or Winnetka, one of the two, whichever is a bigger city.
Sounds like just west of here they also have.
And now Elgin's going to be their largest town, but they are up and coming. And incidentally, it was interesting that last Sunday's Bear game, they had a commercial.
Is that right?
Yeah. So.
How long was Waste Management, the Elgin?
30 years.
30 years.
30
so
years.
It's always hard to make a decision to change after such a long relationship.
Well, it is, but they offered a lot more. And here's something interesting. What about the drivers? And so right away, they had a couple drivers. Waste Management specifically had a couple drivers come in to speak at the council meeting. How much they loved Elgin, and they want to be in Elgin. They want to stay in Elgin. Well, isn't it interesting that, let's use Schaumburg as an example. Schaumburg as an example, Republic, which is where Tish Powell works, Republic lost the bid, and it went to Lakeshore Recycling, LRS. So they took over in Schaumburg. Guess what else happened? Republic dismissed all the drivers. LRS hired all those drivers. The same drivers from Friday to Monday had the same routes. They, as Jennifer Phillips said, she interviewed the director of Public Works over there, and the transition was seamless. The only difference was the drivers had a different truck and a different uniform. So they all stayed on board. So that argument for the emotional difference with the drivers didn't hold any water.
So is that going to happen in Elgin too?
That certainly would be the plan, I'm sure. Why wouldn't it?
All the current drivers for Waste Management in Elgin would become drivers for LRS?
I can't state that will happen, but I know that that's the goal for LRS.
Guess they got to find drivers, right, to fill the routes, and I guess the guys that are going to be losing their job because Waste Management no longer has Elgin need a job,
Sure,
right?
exactly.
So, makes some sense,
Exactly.
I guess. Yeah.
Certainly does, and they all know the route. The containers are owned by Elgin, so that'll remain the same.
Yeah.
So you don't have to turn those in and get new ones. And no more yard waste stickers all year long. Granted, it's free a couple months. It's free in the fall, free in the spring, but now it'll be free all year. So
Well, that's a good thing.
They have a lot to offer, and that's why I went with it. And incidentally, Tish Powell, it was her account in Schaumburg that she lost to LRS. It was her account in Des Plaines that she lost to LRS. So that was part of the reason why, as someone called in and said there was a conflict of interest issued against her. And obviously, how could she be a big fan of LRS considering what happened to her?
Right.
But her company didn't bid in Elgin. But I guess this was one way for her to vote against them growing.
Well, then why did she ever vote in favor of LRS in the final tally? To make it 9-0.
Yeah, pretty interesting, isn't it? Because she knew that they were going to win. So she wanted to be on record that she voted for
the winning team.
So I mean, here's how it went down. The city staff recommended LRS have the new contract with a fixed rate price. John Steffen made a motion to adopt LRS with the fixed rate plan price as our new carrier, and it was seconded. Any discussion? So then we all started talking. Then Tish Powell says, I'd like to amend the motion and change LRS to Waste Management. So she tried to be tricky. So now we have to vote, do we want Waste Management to be the carrier? And so I said, please clarify that motion. And so the city attorney did. And so then that went up for vote. And then that voted no, 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 yes, no, 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 yes. 7-2.
So Mayor Captain at first wanted Waste Management to keep the job too, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So then that was defeated. Then we had to vote on the original motion of LRS becoming the new one. So then we took the vote. Yes, 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 yes.
Right. Makes no sense. It should have been 7-2 both ways.
I know. I was consistent, as were 7 others.
Yeah.
But the 2 realized they want to be on record that they voted for it because they're going to be working with them. So that's how it went. So there we go.
Okay.
So I made a reference. I mean, granted, I don't have any complaints against Waste Management, but LRS has proven their capabilities, and they have new things to offer and additional things to offer, and they had a better plan. So let's add it all up. And to top it all off, they were $1 cheaper per resident. And it doesn't sound like much, but you're looking at 50,000 pickups.
Right. And if there were some fly-by-night group, it would be a different thing. I didn't realize that they had the contracts in all these other areas already.
Oh, yes. They're not small. I mean, they aren't, but they're not a billion-dollar company like Waste Management. If you look at the scheme of things, we are nothing but a small bit of Waste Management, but we are a large bit of LRS. Yeah. So we are more important to LRS and less important to Waste Management. I mean, that's the bottom line. Affect them that they lost us, but it's going to benefit LRS that they gained us.
Yeah. Okay.
And hopefully it'll benefit the city. I mean, that's what we truly believe. All right, well, let's move on. And hi, everybody, and happy Friday. I hope everyone had a good week out there. A week of nice weather, but it was hot Tuesday and Wednesday. Mark, was it ever hot? And then finally, I guess that was Monday and Tuesday, and then it started to cool down a bit. But boy, we had some heat.
Yeah.
And it was dry. We watered. Our hose was going from 5:30 in the morning until about 7:30 at night. Sprinklers, sprinkling, watering. Oh boy, the water department loves us. But with all the flowers and shrubs, and plus, you know what else I watered? I watered all our trees. I put the hose at the base of a tree. We marked it all off for about an hour, 45 minutes to an hour, at all the big trees, because I noticed some trees really looked dry, and not in our yard, but in others. We've done this before.
Yeah.
And then the ground isn't so hard when it does rain like today, so it will absorb better, and as opposed to just running off.
Right.
So this rain was welcome, and although I'm painting the house and I left the tarps out, so now they're soaked. But all is well. Well, I'm joined here with our wonderful producer and the host of the morning show here on WRMN, the top radio station in the Fox River Valley, of which I'm proud to be a part of, Marky B, or should I say more appropriately, Trustee Marky B. Very nice to be at the Republican meeting last Tuesday evening, and I found it interesting, some of the speakers. And
lots of them.
Oh boy, there sure were.
Yeah.
And Ed Dring invited me to come and talk, and I don't go too often, but I go to some. And I hadn't been there in a few months, so it was nice to just give a little city update and to meet some people. And I enjoyed all the talks. It was interesting that the one Hispanic gal, Sylvia, running for the Kane County Board, she and I did differ on her vibes about the water separation lines and the
right.
lead pipes that go up to the houses. I mean, I don't know. It's not like she has a plan. We're ahead of every other city, even Chicago. How much faster can we go? I mean, you only have so many workers. You know, they're working solid on this, an entire team. You can only tear up so many streets and do this at a certain pace.
Right. Well, I thought I was chuckling inside a little bit because that meeting was already stretching, and then you were there to give your update on the city of Elgin, and then it became a debate.
Yes, I know.
And it wasn't supposed to become that wasn't supposed to be part of the meeting.
No, it certainly wasn't.
No.
You know, and here she's telling me she knows of kids that were sick because of drinking Elgin water. I mean, I'm sure. Why hasn't it been in the news then? There's my question.
Wow.
You know, it would have.
Sometimes it's hard to prove what made somebody sick.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, enough of that. Well, let's move on. We don't have a lot of time today. We got 14 more minutes.
Or so.
Or so, yes. But I have to say, I put my little comment in. I'd like to talk to Dean and Sonar and see if the bottom of the hour news cutoff can't be abolished. I don't see why that has to be, since you've got it at the top. But
well, it depends. Yeah, I mean, at the top of the hour, we're doing national news. Mm-hmm. At the bottom of the hour, it's local, supposedly, but it's not as good as it should be. But there'll be some changes with that as far as the content of it throughout the course of the day. It repeats a lot. The same thing repeats a lot during the whole day. But we're so focused right now, Dean and I at least, on America's First Responders Fest that we're trying to get everything settled for that first. So.
Sure, I understand.
But anyway.
All right. Well, we'll talk on that separately. Certainly not something to talk about on the air. Well, as you know, listeners, I always start my week with a dedication, most often a memorial, sometimes to a living person or persons, or sometimes even a place or an event. Well, my individual dedication this week is kind of a couple things, and it's a little different way. Mark, what is this week really kind of mark for you in the feelings, no pun intended on the name? This week marks, for so many, the end of summer. Yep. This is the end of summer. The end of summer is arriving, and how about some memories? I want everybody to think out there. Think of some fun memories about the end of summer. Summer activities. Summer, maybe going to the parks. Going to which park do you like to go to? Do you like to go to Wing Park? Do you like to golf at Wing Park? Picnic? Do you like to go to Lord's Park? Think about your times driving through Lord's Park, getting out, walking with Lord's Park, the public museum, the bison, the zoo, the nature, the creek, the lagoon. Our parks are so beautiful, and even some of our smaller parks, from the small little butterfly parks to the pocket parks to the different parks. Even I have a memory of Grolick Park and Central Park. Central Park, a name that many newbies in Elgin, they never even heard of. And it used to have a really beautiful gazebo. And before my time, they even had band concerts down there. That's located across the street from the Oak Crest on the hill that goes down towards the river and the train tracks. All that area, though, is still beautiful with the big oak trees. So I want everyone to think and have memories of parks and your summertime in the parks, maybe Saturday in the park.
It's taking its time starting.
Saturday in the park, I think
Saturday in the park. Well, pretty soon it'll be, we'll still have some Saturdays in the park, Mark.
Oh, yeah.
But the leaves will be coming down.
They'll be very nice looking parks.
Yes.
Yeah.
And a lot of leaves will be around, but before the leaves come down, the leaves are red and yellow and golden, and they look beautiful. And then finally, the leaves turn brown. All the leaves are brown.
All the leaves are brown, leaves are brown, and the sky is gray, I've been for a walk on a winter's day. I'd be safe and warm if I was in LA. California dreaming on such a winter's day. Stopped into a church, I passed along the way. Well, I got down on my knees, and I pretend to pray. You know the preacher like the cold. He knows I'm gonna stay. California dreaming on such a winter's day.
Well, I guess California dreaming on a winter's day because you're thinking about that warm weather as fall approaches. Right now, we're not really thinking about the cold weather with all this heat we're having. But I do think that this last week of dry, hot weather is going to escalate the leaves turning brown.
Well, I don't think people are so sad to see summer go and fall to come. It's just if you really think about how long it takes for summer to come back. That's the problem. Once you lose it, it's gone.
That's right. That's why people do have California dreaming, so they can go out there where it's almost like summer all year long.
Yeah.
Well, we'll talk more about autumn and the fall season at the very end of the show. But I thought I would share one other thing today, and this is kind of fun, and that's my little history lesson. What's coming up this Monday, Mark?
Labor Day.
Labor Day. Labor Day is observed the first Monday in September. Labor Day is an annual celebration of the social and economic achievements of American workers. The holiday is rooted in the late 19th century, when labor activists pushed for a federal holiday to recognize the many contributions workers have made to American strength, prosperity, and well-being. Before it was a federal holiday, Labor Day was recognized by labor activists and individual states. After municipal ordinances were passed in 1885 and 1886, a movement developed to secure state legislation. New York was the first state to introduce a bill, but Oregon was the first to pass a law recognizing Labor Day on February 21, 1887. During 1887, 4 more states, Colorado, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York, passed laws creating a Labor Day holiday. By the end of the decade, Connecticut, Nebraska, and Pennsylvania had followed suit. By 1894, 23 more states had adopted the holiday. And on June 28, 1894, Congress passed an act making the first Monday in September of each year a legal holiday. Who first proposed the holiday for workers? It's not entirely clear, but 2 workers can make a solid claim to the founder of Labor Day title. Some records show that in 1882, Peter McGuire, General Secretary of the Brotherhood of Carpenters and Joiners and a co-founder of the American Federation of Labor, suggested getting aside a day of general holiday for laboring classes to honor those who from rude nature have delved and carved all the grandeur we behold. Well, Mark, there's a lot more history and information here on Labor Day, but It's a day that people don't really think about the meaning. They just think about it as a picnic day, a fun day,
Right.
a day off of work, a day to celebrate the end of summer, the beginning of fall. They say goodbye to summer, they say hello to fall. And for me, I've brought this up each year. It's got one of my favorite events, which I used to attend every year. It's in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's called the U.S. Nationals. Do you recall what that is?
A race.
Yes, it's the largest drag race in the world. And the U.S. Nationals is in Indianapolis, Indiana. It's like the Daytona of NASCAR or the Indy 500 of Formula One. Well, we don't have any more time to give any announcements, but we've come to the end of the show. I want to wish everybody a wonderful weekend, a safe Labor Day. Have fun. Make sure that you do things proper and enjoy the weather. It looks like it's a good forecast.
Yeah, great.
And support Elgin. And remember, anybody can call me anytime they want. Finally, we're going to end the show with one of my mother's favorite songs. As fall is approaching, this song by the late, great Nat King Cole, Autumn Leaves. Have a great Labor Day, everybody.
The falling leaves drift by the window. The autumn leaves of red and gold. I see your lips, the summer kisses, the sunburned hands I used to hold. Since you went away, the days grow long, and soon I'll hear old winter's song. But I miss you most of all, my darling, when autumn leaves start to fall. Since you went away.
Your hometown radio station since 1949.